Good afternoon, all of you. This is Dr. Ayesha.butalia. Today's session is on CASE, that is Computer Aided Software Engineering. We are under the topic Recent Trends in Software Engineering and Project Management. And under that, part 1 is on Software Configuration Management. We already discussed in our previous session on the part 1 where we discussed what are the various parts in recent trends, part 1, part 2, part 3. And in previous session, we discussed about the part 1, first part 1 SCM, and this is continuation of that part 1. Under software configuration management, today our main highlight is on CASE, that is computer aided software engineering. In our previous lecture, we had an introduction talk on this, where I discussed about that if we want to integrate the computer and the mechanical devices through CNC or DNC machines, and gave you the example of robots where numerical instructions, CNC means the numerical codes, it will be fed through the chip on towards embedded system to the robot, and the robot will go to the location. Just if a simple program we are going to write for pick and drop, for the bricks from one place to the other, and say there are more than 1 lakh bricks, so it's not easy or possible for to get it done manually so easily, which we did the automation robotics. So a robot will go to the location, it will grip through its arms, then it will go to the location when it needs to drop, and when it needs to drop, it will release its arms. So this is nothing but computer aided software engineering. And why it is computer aided? Because ultimately computer itself will not be able to incorporate interdisciplinary projects if it will only rely on itself. So it has to integrate with the other occupants. So that is why aided word is used, and through software engineering. So there is a proper process. I every time say that what is software engineering? It's a process. So even you have to understand the process, okay, to incorporate this interdisciplinary approach, like mechanical devices we discussed, for other things also through CASE. So what we need to learn is CASE, and CASE will assist us, will aid us. So what is CASE? It is a software to support software development and evolution process. Why evolution? Because interdisciplinary would definitely come in revolution, evolution, and so on. So automation. So as we already discussed, that paper-based approach comparatively is lesser efficient than the automated approach. So we need to decide the activities in automation. So one is the graphical editors for system model development. So obviously we require editing, okay, in the form of visualization. So first we visualize the design and then only we can implement. Okay, so we directly don't start creating a building. We first develop an architectural plan on paper, and then we create a framework or a model through a small project with thermocol or accessories, where whenever the clients come in, at times they're able to only see the barren land, not any building also coming up. Then too they buy the flat or whatever property. So that is through the prototype. So graphical editors are requirement for that system model development. Okay, it's a model. It is why. What is the difference between system and model? System is the entire product or the building, but model is its framework. Okay, just like a toy. So data dictionary to manage design entities. So entity is nothing but tables, and tables are used in relational database to store data. And what is data dictionary? Data dictionary is data about data. That's called metadata. So first you create a table to store data, but ultimately you have to store the definition of the table itself. How many data you can store maximum, what will be the attributes, what will be the type of those attributes. Okay, for example, there are 4 columns in a data table, say student. So first is roll number. So roll number is a number. Then you have name, which will be a character combination string. Then you have address is again a character array. And likewise, so you have a mobile number. So mobile number would be a numeric. So you have to data about data. So first table will have data, but that definition about the table also you need to store somewhere, and that's called data dictionary. So in database design, the data which stores metadata is called data dictionary. So you will require that also for your automation design. Then you require UI, okay, builder. UI is the interface which with the client is going to interact to your system. Then we have debuggers to support program fault finding, because sometimes error finding in a big enterprise is also not very easy to locate. So we need to have different programs for debugging. That also has become automated nowadays. Manual testing or manual debugging is not today's cup of tea. Then we also have automated translators to generate new versions of the program. If you might have observed that whenever you create a YouTube video in one language, automatically YouTube now has a feature to support the another language. It automatically converts your audio into the text form which gets displayed. So these are automatic translators which incorporates features into your existing system. So YouTube initially didn't have that. Now it has got automated translators. So its market increases, because if you have created a YouTube video in English and your stakeholders stick to only then English listeners and readers. But then if you want to extend your market for Hindi readers or listeners, so it will automatically translate if you just take the support of the YouTube and so on. So going further, case technology has led to significant improvement in software process. Now, as I always say that you should read or listen the recording 2 to 3 times, because in such case, while going ahead, now you might have missed the definition of case, why case is used. So again, whatever I said in just 5-10 minutes, you need to revise. So it will be boring if I keep on repeating the same concept again and again. Better, I would always recommend that you see the video at least 2 to 3 times. Okay. So, however, there are not the order of magnitude improvements that were once predicted. So, software engineering requires creative thought that is not readily automated. Okay, so this concept of automated translator, maybe 20 years before, it was just a concept. It was nothing where it could be readily automated. So, there were a lot of jugglery, engineering process, then software were designed. Then when softwares came up into picture in market, they were immediately utilized for this process. And why people created the software? Because people were already doing research on that. So it goes one and hand, uh, two-way approach. So you need team interactions. So if it's an interdisciplinary approach, which is a main focus of case, you need to have interactions. Okay, you can't just rely on yourself. You have to rely on the opposite team. For example, if you want to translate English to French, so you need a mediator translator. So that mediator translator need to interact to both of them. Okay, it's not that only one party need to be understood. So case technology does not really support these. So software engineering was not a part of case, but now in our agile technology and the upcoming recent trends in SCM, definitely it is a part. So what is the case taxonomy? It is same as what we have for your SDLC life cycle, software engineering development life cycle, but it is different for your tools, it is different for your workbench, and it is different for your environment. That's the only difference, but otherwise mostly the phases are same, just a little bit of minor upgradation as per the interdisciplinary approach, that you have requirement phase, you have specification phase. So SR is what? Requirement specification. So obviously design has to be there. Implementation phase, integration, that is where configuration is used for integrating, and maintenance. Maintenance also is a part of configuration, where versioning is, if the versioning is a part of your SCM, so obviously maintenance has to be there. Workbench. Now, workbench is the support system, not the actual team, but then that is very much required in today's enterprise business and a large organization. And same ways for environment. You need to take care of the environmental variables. Coming to the workbench, we will categorize this into industry workbench, okay, your attribute workbench. So let's have a look on that. So you can see that what is basically a workbench is having a different definition for different applications. For example, a workbench is a specialized table used for wood cutters. So there it may not make sense for us because we are under software engineering, but basically a workbench, um, as far as technology is concerned, it is a language workbench. It's a development tool set that facilitates, of course, here also you are going to convert into parts. So you require different tool sets for doing that. So for language, it's a development tool set because you need to develop the language and its attributes that facilitates the development and editing of the domain specific languages. Okay, so if you are creating a particular product, you need to have a documentary support for the language which is used. So that is basically a support, and that's why that's called a workbench. Okay, similarly, what is an industry workbench? It is an essential piece of equipment for warehouse and manufacturing operations alike. Typically, they are used for packaging and assembling tasks and offer storage for supplying. Now, basically, something which is outsourced, but it's a support system for us. That is workbench. Similarly, what is workbench in software engineering? That's our major criteria here. So workbench is a way of documenting how a specific activity has to be performed. So it's documentation basically. So whenever you're writing a C code, that comment section is nothing but documentation. In our previous lecture, we discussed that whenever we save a name of a file, if we do not save with a relevant name, okay, we tend to do not recollect when we want to search it. So that is also writing a particular name relevant to it is a support to that file while searching. So that's a workbench. So in short, a workbench is a support to your software engineering development procedure. So what is the case taxonomy? You require tools, you require workbench, and you require environments. Okay, environment is something which is not a part of our product or project, but it needs to be taken care of, which is around us, so that risks are less. We know what risks can come as per environment, and we are aware of it, and we handle it before it. Then what's the taxonomy? So it starts with Gates technology, it has tools, workbench, and environment just discussed. In tools, we have editors, compilers, and file comparators. In workbench, we have analysis and design, programming and testing. We have discussed each one of it in details in some of our previous lectures. In environment, you will have integrated environment and you have process-centered environment. If in analysis and design, it comes multi-method workbenches. Multi-method means you have support system of your project from Java also, from VB also, from HTML also, and so on. Then we have single method workbench. Okay, so it's only dependent on single technology or single language maybe. In programming, we have general purpose workbench and language specific workbench. So if you just draw this diagram on your book and see one by one, it becomes very and easy to understand the case technology. What are the tool sets? Should not be considered as silver bullet for project development. So advanced case tools are complex applications that require significant training and experience to achieve real benefits. So they are nothing but complex applications. So what are the requirements of the case technology? That you require the training for those complex applications. So that is why case has become very, very important and a part of interdisciplinary approach, because it not only glorifies your diagramming tool, but supports the practice of behavioral and structural modeling. So your diagrammatical tool is your data flow diagram, architectural diagram, but your behavioral structural tool is your class diagram, activity diagram, use case diagram. Your behavioral diagram is your configuring component diagram, your sequence diagram, your state chart diagram. Okay, so if you go to UML programming, okay, you have two types of modeling, because basically unified modeling language is used for modeling, right? The term itself, unified modeling language. Why modeling is incorporated to draw diagrams, because diagrams are used for visualization approach, and we all know that visualization, instead of showing the code to someone, if you first show the diagram of it, it is more better understood. So of course, cases used for enforcing discipline, because you have some standardization of notations and diagrams. Even UML, you have a standardization symbols. Why? Because it is worldly used or down www. So those notations has to be standardized. For example, in HTML links are generally blue in color. So if there are documents not with blue color, you will be searching on the hand, because a hyperlink, it is a hand which if you click, it goes to another page. So you can't keep on searching the entire document. So whenever you see a blue color, you directly go there. Okay, it's diverting to another link page. Once you already visit the link page, it turns into violet. So these are standardized, everybody knows. But if suppose different colors are used, then it becomes very ambiguous. Everybody doesn't know that notation. Similarly, any language also has a standard format for so that everybody understands it. So all these things are ultimately to reduce your time and effort. So there are limitations. Documentation templates provided may not match the organization. These are the limitations. Cost price is between $5,000 to $15,000 per year to provide case tools to one system analyst. So that is also a limitation you can't afford every time. And of course, training is also required, which incorporates not only costing, but also very complex tools. So workbenches as cases, a coherent set of tools that is designed to support. So what we do, we try to find out support to incorporate these limitations, and that's why workbench comes into picture. Okay, so you can outsource certain things for getting support. So that's why these workbench may support a specific design method or may provide support for creating several types of system model. So everything you need not to program, you can outsource it. Now, as I always say that whenever you write a theory paper, or even during presentations, or whenever it is required to explain a topic, you should always prefer with examples and diagrams. So whatever is written over here initially, these points, okay, this is also a diagram. Same visual representation, the points which were mentioned here. The same visual representation of this, okay, is being with different connections through repository system, because this is here the focus is your entity. Okay, so that is why. So basically the content is going to be the same. Your representation of diagram, your visual representation will depend on what you need to focus. So you can always change the perspective, the diagram changes. So it's very easy to connect any theory with visual representation, and that should be done. Okay, so now see the same thing here. So this diagram is based on the component diagram. So if you want to convert this into use case, these components, these will be the components. Same thing, these components would be actually the classes in the class diagram. Only the way of representation changes. Okay, so repository is nothing but where you store your data. So store the diagrams and other project information. That's called repository. Why we are storing the diagrams? Because in design, we have UML diagrams. So that is also our information and the data, basically. Okay. So you have a centralized database, allows easy sharing of information because everything is at one end. So anybody can take that data from there. Okay, it facilitates reusability. So that is why case repository benefits are always there. So what basically the case components repository act as? The information repository, where you have the business information and the application portfolio. It provides automated tool to manage and access. Okay, so obviously it is not a paper-based system, it is an automated. The moment it becomes automated, you need to have an application related to it. For applications, you need to have tools and techniques to manage and control that. So it goes hand in hand. Then you need data dictionary, okay, because ultimately you are storing data. So if you are storing data, data about data also needs to be stored there. So automatically you need to create a data dictionary. And of course, the diagrammatic tools. So you have got DFDs, that is data flow diagrams. The tools should, actually allow us to create all that. Your ER diagram, that is your entity relationship diagrams. Entities are nothing but tables. Okay, so you create tables and then like class diagrams, you show connection. Similarly, class is also like a table in relational design. In object-oriented design, you have class. In relational design, you have tables. Similarly, like class has a class name, table has a table name, class has attributes, members, okay, of the class. Similarly, tables has columns or the attributes. Class has data member functions, and tables has data inside. Okay, and of course, through PLSQL, programming language database, you can even write functions on the table itself. So diagrammatical tools allow you to use stepwise refinement. Okay. So data flow diagram can be created stepwise, means data flow diagram level 0, level 1, level 2, and so on. So level 0 will have the upper shell, the level 1 will have detailed, level 2 will be much more minute detail. But immediately when you see the level 2, you become confused. So that is why level 0 should be where it should be given like a shell upwards, then detail, so that you also get a clear picture stepwise. So fourth is analysis tools. Okay, types of analysis depend on the methodology used and the features of case. So obviously आपका रिसर्च एनालिसिस में आप कितने डेप्थ तक जा रहे हो. अगर आप 4 लैंग्वेज इनकॉर्पोरेट कर रहे हो तो आपकी 4 मेथोडोलॉजी अलग अलग लैंग्वेज के लिए अलग अलग मेथोडोलॉजी भी आपको लग सकती है, और आप चारों लैंग्वेज के लिए एक मेथोडोलॉजी भी यूज कर सकते हो. तो वो तो डिपेंड करता है कि आपका प्रोजेक्ट और आपका एनालिसिस किस टाइप का है, and it depending upon that how many tools of analysis you require. Of course, you require case documentation because workbench is nothing but documentation, and that is very very necessary. अगर आप एक साल बाद अपना ही कोड देखोगे तो आप समझ नहीं पाओगे, लेकिन अगर उसकी डॉक्यूमेंट्री आप पढ़ोगे जो आपने उस समय बहुत स्पेसिफिकली बनाई थी, तो it becomes very easy for you also to understand, also for a newcomer who joins your project. And of course, the diagrammatical tools. What are the categories? Tools, workbench, and environment that we already saw. In tools, we have uppercase tools, that is the front end. Front end means the UI tools, जो client के साथ directly connect होते हैं. The lower case tool, that is the backend tool. So backend will have the data. And integrated tool is the support for the entire life cycle. तो जो backend और front end को connect करे. Okay, so if you convert this into MVC architecture, you have 3-tier architecture. So 3-tier architecture we have discussed in one of the sessions. MVC architecture is an example of 3-tier architecture. So model is your backend, view is your front end, and controller. Okay, MVC, C stands for control. Controller is nothing but your integrated case tool which supports the full life cycle. Of course, workbench is the support we require for analysis and design, and it may cross phase boundary. Why it may cross phase boundary? Because we already said that outsourcing is a part of workbench. So outsourcing has to be apart from the organization. It's not part of the organization. Some other organization would be providing that support. So it's not a part of our boundary. But of course, it will be our extended support. So commercial examples that you can outsource is the data dictionary. So it can be maintained by someone else. consistency checker, screen generator, and report generator. So you can outsource these things because you need a specific script writers for report generators. For generators, you need specialized UI designers. For consistency checkers, you may require DBAs, database administrators. Even for data dictionary, you may require DBAs. So you can outsource them. If you do not have a specialized team in your, you need not hire them for that because unnecessarily you need to give them the payment for entire sessions. So again, the same gist which we started with, that the phase of STLC is same with case, but it is separate for tool, separate for workbench, and separate for environment. So this was all about the case, okay, that is computer aided software engineering. And I hope this technique, which is nowadays incorporated not only in big enterprise but also in small, in agile computing, it is very, very hit methodology being used. So I hope this awareness through this session might be useful to you. Thank you for your patient listening. If you have any doubts, you can post me on the group in the comment section. This is Dr. Ayesha Butalia signing off from this session. Have a nice day.